Thanks for staying with us. We are going to be starting front page review today with The Nation. Major headline: Adamawa, police squeeze, detain REC, INEC commissioners. Unusari gives self up at Force headquarters, says I have no regrets. And in other news, we have 57.4 million BVNs linked to bank accounts, 7,500 on the watch list. Obi admits making phone call to Oyedepo, my UK airport experience as well. And in other news, NSIA launches firm to deliver healthcare expansion. First batch of Nigerians expected from Sudan today. Wike declares holiday for Tinubu's visit. Reps seek clemency for Ekwerimadu. So what story are we starting with?
The BRT driver in Lagos train accident at the very bottom.
Oh, yes. Yeah, driver who slammed bus into train in Lagos.
So we all remember that very sad story. So the bus driver has been, was before the Ikeja High Court and has been remanded at the Nigerian Correctional Service for his involvement in that tragic accident. So I don't know if we all remember his name. Let me see. Somebody Osibajo. I always remember the surname because same as. So he has been arraigned, was arraigned on a 16-count charge bordering on involuntary manslaughter and grievous harm. Although he pleaded not guilty, but he's being kept in jail until his hearing. It was submitted that he ignored warning signals and ran into an incoming train and negligently killed 6 persons. Their names were mentioned in the report, and also inflicted grievous harm on 10 persons. And so we'll be hearing over, the cause of the
prosecution.
When they're in court,
that's
the cause of the judgment or the case.
As it goes.
Yes, that it goes. We would hear how it turns out because he's pleading not guilty. I wonder how that will work out. I'm quite interested in that.
Okay, now.
So the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, yesterday admitted that he phoned the eminent cleric, Bishop David Oyedepo, and he said that the video, the audio that was leaked was actually doctored, that there was never a time he mentioned religious bigots, that he only had to beg the cleric to get his people to vote for him, that he was just begging. For the last 6 months, he was begging and appealing that they get people to vote for him, and there was no time he would have said, thought, or imagined any religious war. And he also said that he is not a religious bigot, that he was a non-Muslim who sent more, as a governor, who sent many people to more Muslims to Mecca. And he wants to work for Nigeria, so he can never find himself in a situation where he is looking after the different religions. After all, his vice, who was the vice presidential candidate as well, was a Muslim, and they worked well together. Then he talked about his UK. There was this rumor that he was detained in the UK. He said he was not detained in the UK. It was just their regular routine checks that was being done. And they, told him that I think some imposters were using his name and he had to be careful. But that didn't take more than 20 minutes. And there was nothing like him being detained. He's been traveling. He was in UK for a long time. He has the permanent residence there. They know him there. He's been traveling. Nothing. He has never been accosted by any official on any crime that he has committed.
So the Senate yesterday had their committee on interior investigate the delay in issuance of passports. Anybody in Nigeria that wants to get a new passport can testify to how difficult it has been. And so the Senate has already sent its committee to investigate the reason behind the delay, said that the committee is given 14 days to turn in a report on what caused the delay. If we recollect, the issue was because they are the Minister for Interior was trying to reform the passports process, but that now officially is supposed to be a 6 weeks process, has become to 4 months, in some cases even 6 months to get the passport out. I know personally that there's a racket within the system to speed up the process of getting passports out. And
they're not able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a racket.
They are even saying that there's people pay. The people pay, obviously. And that was what they are trying to avoid. But we're back
at the
in that space. So the person sponsoring this investigation, Senator Uche Ekwenife from Anambra Central, said that many Nigerians many students that are trying to travel back to Nigeria can get their passports. Some students gotten their admission, but can't process their passport enough to make their trip, causing undue hardship on people and making a few people positioned rightly profiteer from this difficulty. I think that I'm eagerly waiting for this 14 days reports so that we can at least give Nigerians heads up on what is going on and what the Senate is going to do to ensure that NIS.
So the initial idea is a good idea.
Yes,
but
it was
we have Nigerianized it.
And ensure that there's nobody jumping the queue. But somehow,
we find a way
to do the same thing.
Okay.
Moving on to the Punch major headline. Tinubu's victory. Legal battle begins Monday as tribunal hears petitions. APC expresses readiness, says that it's aware of hearing dates. PDP Atiku will emerge victorious, legal team tells Nigerians. And of course, you cannot miss the picture of evacuated Nigerians stranded at Egypt border. But Abiamila is going to probe this. We can see boxes and boxes and people standing around their luggage. Then, in other news, 792 Nigerians abducted in first quarter. That's from a report. Ogun Rep elects. Activists clash in traffic over broken car mirror. I have delivered on change agenda, says our president, Muhammadu Buhari. External debt. Federal government deducts 78 billion naira from state allocation. Controversial Adamawa rake detained, insists Binani won poll. And then deadly noodles, NAFDAC takes probe to factories and markets. All right, what is the story we're starting with?
So a former commissioner for forestry in Ogun State, Tunji Akinyosi, has been accused of attacking a female activist, Abiodu Thomas, after his car allegedly hit a hawker in the Onikon area in Lagos State. So according to the reports, they said he used his black Prado to brush the hawker. And the correspondent who saw it said that there was a short video clip showing the altercation between the honorable and an activist who witnessed what happened. And so according to the story, they said this hawker was passing, and whether it's the Prado now that brushed the hawker, and the mirror, the side mirror, was pulled off. So he said he got down, and the guy started feigning that his leg was broken. But the activist is saying that he actually brushed him and then came down, looked and saw him and walked into his car about to leave. So they came down, the activist and some of her colleagues came down and started, talking to him, asking him to come down from that vehicle and treat the young man. So he said, according to the short clip that he said they had, they saw him when she was trying to take a video of him. And he said, I will break this. If you do that, I will beat you up. I will break this phone. And then he took the phone and smashed the phone. But in his own side of the story, he said he didn't smash the phone, that he just saw that the guy was pretending. And so when he asked some other witnesses, they said, please, what did you see? And they said this guy was actually pretending till the guy got up and left. But the activist...
guy could walk away.
Yes. So probably he was afraid of, repairing the vehicle.
Yeah.
But the activist said if she's waiting for her lawyer, she's not going to report the case. The mother has appealed that she shouldn't report the case to the police. The honorable say, if you are not reporting the case to the police, so how would you say I broke your phone if you cannot go and report the case to the police? It's just been back and forth, yeah.
Update on the evacuated?
No, I have update on the wreck that was that confirmed or declared Binani governor when coalition had not finished. So the Nigerian police force has confirmed the arrest of barrister Yunus Ari, and he's being investigated, he's been questioned, and according to him, according to the investigation so far, well, first of all, the police are saying they're going to do everything. So he's not the only one that's been arrested. All the other officials that were with him too, who and the police are saying that they did this together, are all going to be questioned. And the police is saying they're going to do everything possible to make sure that justice, is carried out. But we also remember that just on Tuesday before he was arrested, he had been to BBC Hausa and he had said that he stands by what he did, declaring Binani governor, winner of that particular election. He said that she had scored 428,173 votes, while Fintiri scored 422,303 votes, and so he has no regrets. And also he was asked during that interview on the alleged 2 billion naira bribe that he had collected, and he said he did not collect bribe from either Binani or Fintiri, and that if he had, by now those two people would be asking for their money. But now he's been arrested, because this was a question we're wondering, what, does he just go scot-free? But now he's been arrested. We're going to hear, I'm sure, eventually how this would unfold.
We're still reviewing the front pages of the newspaper, and we were with Punch. I had a story. I have delivered on change agenda, says President Muhammadu Buhari. And, many people he's been counting down to his exit from being in position and breaking down how he has delivered on the promises. The president appraising his performance, like they said, appraising his regime's performance in office at the inauguration of the Zuba Abuja housing estate. He mentioned that his presidency had delivered on the change promise, and listing a few of the things they've done. Spoke about the fact that they've provided housing targeting at people within the targeting multi-dimensional poverty challenges that Nigerians are facing, that new owners are going to take possession of that home and be able to have those benefits. He also listed other things that he believes the administration has delivered on. He said he broke down that they've already spent a lot of money constructing roads within the country, that the history of contemporary Nigeria would not be complete without mentioning the things that his presidency has achieved in the country. Then there was a lot of time given to attacking the
opposition.
Yeah, opposition.
What do you mean by a lot of time?
Yeah, because the article was just focusing on the fact that he has delivered on his promise and spent breaking down the housing project that has been provided for, and other administrations that have not done housing projects as well. They said in building the housing units, 13,000 Nigerians were employed, and directly and indirectly 75 contractors were engaged, and this provided employment for Nigerians. So it's part of him delivering the change agenda.
We agree with him. I just hope that the housing would be, poor people will be able to afford it.
That's another angle of the conversation.
Those that can afford this, they'll find houses to afford. So that's why we have all this
more options. We're having more options. So and he has provided more options. He has delivered the change
on that
agenda. Moving on to the Vanguard, major headline. No regrets, declaring Binani winner, says Adamawa Rek. 3 Anglican clerics, 1 other die in Ekiti auto crash. Despite National Working Committee's intervention, APC insists on suspension of National Vice Chair Secretary. Ekweremadu, tamper justice with mercy, reps ECOWAS Parliament urge the UK government. Sudan, second batch of Nigerian evacuees arrive Port Sudan. NSIA launches 2 companies to deliver healthcare plans. Oshibajo, symbol of national unity, say Buhari, Gowon, governors others. World Press Freedom Day. The NGE tasked incoming government on safety of journalists. Buhari okays partial exclusion of financial ministry from the TSA. CBN to audit e-payment system. Watch lists 572 bank customers. And what story are we going to be starting with?
Okay, let me start with the sentencing of Ekweremadu in the United Kingdom. Well, we have a member of the House, Toby Okechukwu, who has moved a motion, and he's saying that this is based on, Nigeria's long-standing relationship with the UK, and he's asking that, the UK government should tamper justice with mercy. They say that Ekweremadu has made many contributions to the commonwealth of the nation, and he's also innocent. His intention, it was an innocent intention to save his child, his sick daughter. That there has to be some back-channel diplomatic ways or interventions on how to deal with what has happened. They said this Senator Okechukwu was moved to, they said with a broken voice and close to tears, you know, he's asked that, you know, while he was like an impassioned speech, just talking about how Ekweremadu has also helped many Nigerians, and so there has to be another way, you know, that this is handled. We shouldn't allow him just stay in prison for this particular thing. And they said the Speaker of the House, Femi Gajamiela, spoke to the Crown and also pleaded for clemency for Ekweremadu. He described him as a good man with no prior convictions, and he has asked the UK court to take into consideration the history of his rightful living and also the history of rightful living of Ekweremadu and his wife, and also consideration for their sick daughter, who has been, you know, definitely away from her parents during this period. So they're just asking for mercy.
I want to take the story on World Press Freedom Day. The Nigerian Guild of Editors have, in commemorating the day, said that there's been, over the past 8 years, cases of intimidation, harassment, violence, and even murder of journalists, and that journalists should have freedom to do their job, mentioning that it's important that mass media maintains their freedom. They said that they have engaged the National Assembly to see how they can work on the Nigerian Broadcast Corporation, the NBC, the NBC code, and the broadcast code is imposing some restrictions on especially broadcast stations and reducing independence of the stations' ability to carry out their job and the news. They broke down how there are disturbing signs of repression of the media in this administration, and they are hoping that the new administration anti-media laws would be stopped, according to the letter signed by the president, by its president, that's the Nigerian Guild of Editors President, Mustafa Issa. So we're hoping that we would see a new administration that actually permits more of press freedom. Yeah.
So Isat's story, a road crash yesterday claimed the lives of 3 Anglican Church clergymen, Ekiti Oke Diocese, on Otsun Iro Ekiti Road in Mobile Local Government Area of Ekiti State. They said that the deceased clerics were traveling from Ikpere Ekiti to Iro Ekiti when their bus somersaulted, and then they died instantly. 5 other clerics sustained injuries. They were taken to the Federal Teaching Hospital, Ido Ekiti. The corpses of the 3 clergymen were deposited in the hospital morgue. They also said another reverend, Felix Okewo, was transferred from St. Peter's Anglican Church, Ikpere Ekiti, was on his way to assume duty in the new station in Iro Ekiti when the incident occurred. The other 2 clerics, Reverend Arije of St. James Anglican Church, Eda, Oniyo Ekiti, and Reverend Omotosho of St. Mary's Anglican Church, Ewu Ekiti. And another relative of one of the late Reverend Okeowo, identified as Mrs. Cecilia. All of them died in the crash. It's just so painful.
So you were going to take the story?
Yeah, so CBN yesterday says it will audit the nation's payment system in order to cope with future growth in the electronic banking transaction. Anyway, in summary, it noticed the spike that happened during this Naira redesign issue and cashless policy. So there was a spike in e-transactions. And they said, oh, well, this is not the first time it has happened. Even during COVID, you know, there was that spike. And so they need to audit to see how mature we are, you know, infrastructurally and what needs to be done. So that's basically what they were saying. But also they said that about 572 bank customers, their BVN there's been a ban on e-payments based on their BVN because of fraudulent activity. So this group of people can no longer carry out e-transactions. They have to go to their bank branches to carry out transactions until they are properly audited.
Final paper for today. I'll just take the stories that we haven't mentioned. Have we taken the Sudan? First batch of stranded Nigerians arrive in Abuja today. We also have 200 pay rise demand, not outrageous. Federal government can afford it. That's from the resident doctors. And additional excess increase may cause illicit trade, industry recession, and layoffs. So which one are we starting with?
Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, they are saying that the 200% pay rise demand is not outrageous, and they know that the federal government can afford it. They said the review of salaries of resident doctors should have taken place in 2014, and you know, if you have to add the rising inflation since that time to this time now, it's been giving them a lot of economic shock, and so they have to increase to that amount of money. So on April 29th, they had given a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to commence the implementation of all the pending agreements with the doctors, or else they will embark on a nationwide strike.
So resident doctors know the state of our accounts, and they know that...
Yes, but the government had offered them 25%, and they say the inflation will not be able to cover that for them. So.
All right, that's all we can take on Front Page Review for today. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.